maybe you heard in Chassidim when they used to speak about the Rebbe's room, and of course before Chassid went into the Rebbe for Yechidus, for private audience, they would be waiting outside the Rebbe's room. So the Rebbe's room they referred to as Gan Eden Elyon, and the place where they were waiting to go in was called Gan Eden. In other words, this is the lower level and getting ready to go into the higher place. So if you ever hear someone talking about 770, saying this is Gan Eden Tachton, what they're referring to is the room in front of the Rebbe's room. So it's higher than Gan Eden Tachton and higher than Gan Eden Elyon. Now in Gan Eden Elyon itself, there are infinite levels, because we know there are many tzaddikim. Every tzaddik is on a different level than the other. So there obviously are many levels in Gan Eden. So Chis HaMesim is even higher, and that's stam higher, infinitely higher than Madrega Chi Nailish Gan Eden, and the highest level imaginable in Gan Eden. And this is obvious. How is it obvious? We can understand this just from observing Chis HaMesim in itself. What's going to be by Chis HaMesim? All Yidden will rise and be in this physical world. All Yidden means Gam and Neshama Shemitzayim Began Eden, Kam Malachim Shana, even those Neshamas that they're already in Gan Eden for thousands of years. We're talking about Neshamas of Tzadikim that were established thousands of years ago, starting from Moshe Rabbeinu, Avraham Avinu. And these neshamas in Gan Eden itself are not just sitting and twiddling their thumbs, but gimel pamim b'chol yom emes alim l'darga nailis yosef. 3 times a day, corresponding to our 3 davenings a day, Shachris, Mincha, and Ma'ariv. So it says that 3 times a day the neshamas have an aliyah. In Shemona Esrei, there's a bracha Ata Kodesh, Hashem, you're holy. Shimcha Kadosh, your name is holy. And then it says, Kedoshim, and all the holy ones, B'chol Yom, every day, Yalu Chasela, they praise you forever. So one of the Purushim in these words it's referring to the Neshamas. Kedoshim means the holy Neshamas, that they're constantly rising from level to level, but specifically, just like we have some sort of an aliyah when we daven, Shachris, then Mincha, then Ma'ariv, they too have 3 aliyahs every day. So imagine, Neshama of a tzaddik, Neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu, Neshama of tzaddikim, Tanoim, Amoraim, Nevi'im that lived thousands of years ago. To begin with, they were in the highest level of Gan Eden. And then in that level of Gan Eden, every single day they rise to a higher level and a higher level. And by the way, the question is, if they rise to a higher level every single day, and every single day 3 times, so why do we make such a issue out of a yard site? The day that Tzaddik passed away. Every day they're having it, we say on that day, the Neshama has an aliyah. Based on what we just said, every day the Neshama has an aliyah. Every day the Neshama has an aliyah 3 times. So what's so unique about the yard site? It's a different level. Again, let's understand the yard site means the day the Neshama left this world and went up to Gan Eden. So any tzaddik who lived in this world, every day he's going higher and higher. But you can't compare that to leaving the world completely and going to a new, higher spiritual world completely. Here, the going higher and higher is still in a physical world, in a Gashmizical world. And on the day of the Neshama's yard side, that day they go up to a higher spiritual world. Same thing as with the Neshama. Every day the Neshama goes up higher. Every day it goes up higher 3 times a day. On the day of the yard side, it doesn't just go higher, it's a different kind of change completely. It goes to a higher world, a completely new world, which wasn't there before. And that's every year since its passing. So imagine after all that, going through thousands of years, after all that, Appa became Lasad Lavi, Slap Shubagufim. These neshamas will go back into a body to the physical world. How does that make sense? What could be here more than what they had there? So before we answer the question what, one thing is definite, that obviously down here, when Tchias HaMesim, what's going to be revealed will be infinitely greater than everything the Neshama was able to experience in thousands of years in Gan Eden, going higher and higher and higher. It still doesn't compare to Tchias HaMesim. So clearly, Tchias HaMesim, what will be revealed then is infinitely greater than what was revealed in Gan Eden. What will be revealed in the world of Tchiyah is so much higher than what's revealed even Gan Eden, even from the highest Gan Eden. So after all that, I would expect, if not everybody has the merit to devote to Gan Eden, so it's even more difficult to merit Tchias HaMesim, and yet we say the opposite. In order to have Gan Eden, there are many conditions. Not everybody merits to go to Gan Eden. And in order to merit Olam HaTchiyah, everybody will have it. There are no conditions. Kol Yisrael. How does that make sense? Okay, base. Let's first understand what was just explained. Let's understand how is it that what's going to be revealed in the time of Tchias HaMesim is infinitely greater than Gan Eden. Turn the page. Being that the world of Gan Eden is the world of neshamas. These are neshamas without a body. When Tchias HaMesim will take place, the neshama will be in the body. How could you explain that in the time of Tchias HaMesim, when the neshama is meluvish b'guf gashmi, at that time yegilu naliyesem b'Gan Eden. In other words, the guf is physical and it's limiting. The neshama is not in the guf up there, so it's not limiting. So how can we say that when the guf is limited and when the neshama is limited and confined to a body, it can reach higher heights than the neshama without the body? One of the things we learned about recently when we were preparing for Shavuos was where the Rebbe explains. We did it very quickly and briefly because we were on the trying to pass this speed limit. The Shavuos was coming around the corner, but we mentioned why was it that Yidden went to sleep. An explanation that we gave, a sikh of the Rebbe, is it's like a Navi. When a Navi received the prophecy, he would be in a state of sleep, like it was unconscious. Why? Because the guf is limited, and the guf interferes, doesn't allow the neshama to perceive and to reach the levels that it could reach on its own. The guf weighs it down, the guf confines it, restricts it. So therefore, when a person goes to sleep, the neshama is less connected to the guf. These are the words of the Gemara. The Gemara says that sleeping is a 60th of the opposite of life. What does it mean? When a person, God forbid, passes away, the neshama leaves the body completely. When a person is sleeping, the neshama leaves the body, a 60th of the connection is now less. So if it's less connected to the body, it's less limited by the body. If it's less limited by the body, now the neshama could see things and hear things that without being connected to the body before it couldn't do. So when a Navi had to receive a prophecy is Gilui Elokus on a very high, overwhelming level. So therefore the guf was sort of put to sleep. So it's less interfering. And now the neshama could experience things that are very high. What? Moshe Rabbeinu was the only exception, that his guf was so high, it was like his neshama, and his guf wasn't an interference. He was the only one that was an exception. But every single Navi to receive Nebuah had to be in that state. So clearly, I mean, this was where Matan Torah, they even went to sleep intentionally. They went to sleep because they knew Matan Torah is not just they're going to get a book, they're going to get laws, they're going to see Hashem is going to reveal himself to them. And in order to experience it fully without any interferences, without any disturbances, without any limitations, they thought the best thing would be like the Navi, put themselves to sleep. Then we explained why Hashem wasn't pleased with that. Okay. But that's the question here. The neshama without a guf is unlimited. The guf is something which limits it. And if that's the case, how is it possible? How is it conceivable that the neshama in the guf will be experiencing something which is not greater, but infinitely greater than what the neshama could perceive without the guf? Maybe the answer is that the guf, when Mashiach comes, will be a very refined guf, like you just said about Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was able to receive a prophecy with the guf, because his guf was like transparent, like a glass. You can look right through it; it doesn't block you. Moshe Rabbeinu's guf was so refined that it was like his neshama. So when Mashiach comes, our guf will be like that. The Rebbe doesn't bring the example of Moshe Rabbeinu; he brings a different example, Adam Arishan. Adam Arishan's guf was the most refined guf in creation. Why? Simple. He was Yitzir Kabab Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. His guf was created by Hashem's hands. Everybody else's guf comes through a process of birth. The father and a mother and a baby is born with a guf. So even though it all comes from Hashem, but it's processed through this natural process. But Adam Arishan, there was no natural process. He was created directly from Hashem's hand. That's the term that's found in Chazal. Yitzir Kapov. Kapov means the hands. Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, creation of Hashem's hands. And it says, Hayamake Galgul Chama. It means his light, his guf was so bright, so shining, it sort of outshined the sun. So his guf was a very refined guf and a very bright guf. And therefore, we can say the same will be with the guf of Mashiach comes. Actually, there's something that's written that says that it's even more than what we just said. When Mashiach comes, the guf will be even greater than Adam Arishan's guf. What's the logic behind it? Why will the guf when Mashiach comes be so much greater?
We won't be finite anymore.
Why? What?
Oh, yeah.
I'm asking what would be the reason why the guf when Mashiach comes is going to be greater than the guf now? Why would it be like Adam Arishan's guf? That's a result of the fact that it's greater. But I'm asking why should it be greater? What?
Like Moshe.
Like Moshe. No, like Adam Arishan. What do you want to say, Nadia?
It's not going to be
I think okay, but I want to find something specific about the group. It's so simple, you'll all be smiling later. Why did you think of it? Why will the group be like Adam Arishan's group? What? Right. The difference between Adam Arishan and everyone else is all our gufim come through a process, which is a physical, natural process of birth. Adam Arishan is created directly from Hashem, and the gufim, when Mashiach comes, who'll create them? Directly from Hashem. Same thing. So the guf will be so much greater. It'll be directly from Hashem's creation. It says that's the reason why the guf, the Asad Lavai, will live forever, because Hashem is eternal. Hashem is nitzchi, so the guf is nitzchi. So the guf will be even greater than other Mauritian. Why greater? Doesn't give the reason. The Rebbe just gives a reference in a mimer of the Rebbe Rashab. Yes.
What about people who are alive in the future?
So they're going to get an injection in the guf, and it's going to become like the other guf. They can't be losing out because they're around, right?
Isn't everybody going to have?
What?
Isn't everybody going to go through like a similar process? Like even if you are alive, you're going to go through a process and then be.
No, so the Rebbe spoke about this. First of all, in general, I mean, this is one of the reasons why some people don't like to talk about Mashiach and they're afraid of Mashiach, what's going to happen to them. There is a source that says that before Mashiach comes, everyone will return to dust. But the Rebbe wants to explain that, first of all, in general, any prophecy, even if it's an open prophecy, a clear prophecy, a Navi comes and says, I'm telling you, I just received the prophecy from Hashem that this and this is going to happen. If it's something negative, then it doesn't have to happen. Through tshuva, we can turn it around. That's the halacha. If it's something positive, then it must happen. It can't be reversed. So that's the reason why Yoina Hanavi came to the city of Nineveh and he told them a clear prophecy that in 40 days this city is going to be destroyed. And it wasn't destroyed because they did tshuva. That's the basis for this halacha. So therefore, even if there would have been an open prophecy, it doesn't have to happen. But what? It could occur, it could take place in a sort of metaphoric way, in a spiritual way. So the Rebbe says, is the words we say in davening, "V'nafshi ka'ofar lakel tiya." My soul should be like dust to you. In other words, it's referring to bittul. And therefore, the Rebbe says, when Mashiach comes, it doesn't mean chas v'shalom that people will turn into dust literally. It means they'll go through the process of nafshi ka'ofar lakel tiya, bittul. So either it's what we're going through right now, or the suffering of Golus and so on, but it doesn't have to chas v'shalom take place b'gashmis. But nevertheless, it can be that those who have the merit to be alive when Mashiach comes will lose out. Obviously, their guf will then receive that advantage as if it was created by Hashem himself. So the Rebbe says, even if we were to say, okay, that the reason why we can achieve, we can receive and perceive so much is because the guf will be on a higher level. The Rebbe says, this will only explain Rak al-zeh shel-asad lava yi ha-neshamas and-l'bashim begufim kelim l'kabel gilui naila yosef. This will explain why when Mashiach comes, the guf will be able to be a vessel to absorb and to perceive something that's so great, it's greater than what's mizgala achshav and neshamas b'lei gufim. But it still doesn't explain aval ein bazeh bir. Why would this? Why would it be dapke the neshama in the guf? You can say with the guf it can also handle it, but wouldn't it make sense to say that the neshama without a guf could receive so much more? And in fact, you probably know that this is the basis for the Rambam, the famous Rambam. That the Rambam says that Chiyas HaMeisim is not forever. Chiyas HaMeisim will be for a period of time, hundreds of years or more, and after that will be the ultimate reward on a neshama without a guf. No, you don't remember this? And the Ramban is the one who argues with him, and basically it's not just the Ramban, but all the sources in Chassidus and Kabbalah, all those sources are the same opinion of the Ramban, that Chiyas HaMeisim is eternal. But the reason for the Rambam is logical. The neshama without a guf, that could receive the ultimate reward. But over here it appears, no, that the ultimate reward is the neshama in the guf. Why? Why dafka the guf? And the Rebbe explains the question further. Agam shegam losid loved. So even when Mashiach comes, when the guf will be, as we said before, in a perfect condition, but nevertheless, it's still a guf gashmi, it's still physical. the limitations in something that's physical is yoser, it's more than something that is ruchni, that's not physical. In other words, the defining factor, what defines and what distinguishes one world from another world, Atzilus, Riya, Yitzira, Asiya, the Gashmic world is, the lower the world, the more limited it is. The higher the world, the less limitations. So for example, the Rebbe says in this Gashmic world, there's the Hagbolah of Zman and Makom, that there's space, there's time, past, present, and future, and that's limiting. And there is space, that's limiting. So for example, you can't have two things connected if they're far from each other. They can be physically connected if they're far from each other. The ruchnius, anything that's not physical doesn't matter. So there could be two people that love each other. The one is in one part of the world, one in the other part of the world. They're just as connected as they're standing next to each other. Space doesn't create any kind of state in things that are not physical. Space doesn't get in the way. And the same thing is with Zman and Mokum. I mean, with Zman. Like, for example, it's always brought down in the Sichas. I think I mentioned this once. When we went to Australia, Shlichus, that Shabbos, the Rebbe spoke about it. And he said that the Mittel Rebbe wanted a group of Chassidim to go to Eretz Yisrael, to Hebron. And not only wanted, actually they went to Hebron. And the Mittel Rebbe, the Chassidim said to him, how could we go? We're not going to be able to have Chassidus. So he promised them that he's going to send them his manuscripts of Chassidus that he's going to say, in writing, he'll send it to them, which he did. But the Rebbe asked a question. The Rebbe said, true that he was going to send it to them, but it says there's a certain advantage in seeing the face of your teacher when he teaches you Torah. Rabbi Meir said that the reason why I am greater than my colleagues is because I saw my Rebbe, when I saw him, there was a big crowd, and I saw him from the back, which means had I seen his face, I would have been able to achieve even more. So seeing the face of your Rebbe physically enhances your ability to understand things on a deeper level. So the Rebbe asked, so what did the Mittel Rebbe answer them? That he'll send them the Maimer in writing, but they'll be missing the advantage of being able to see the Rebbe's face. Because as long as they lived where they were before in Europe, sometimes they would go to Lubavitch, sometimes the Mittel Rebbe would travel and go to their community, but they saw the Rebbe's face. What was the Rebbe's answer? The Rebbe's answer was, by when a person is able to sort of, in his mind, picture the Rebbe's face, which he saw before, it could accomplish exactly the same as if he's seeing the Rebbe's face right now. It was interesting because the Rebbe was talking to us and basically telling us, those days was before internet, we're talking about 1967, there's no internet, which means there's no way of seeing the Rebbe's face and no way of hearing Fabrengens or anything like that. We used to get a recording, which came like 2 weeks later after it happened. But the Rebbe was saying by closing your eyes and picturing the Rebbe's face, the Friedrich Rebbe describes the Fabrengen, where there was a group of Chassidim, and they were talking about the Alter Rebbe, and they started to sing a niggin of the Alter Rebbe. They stood up, and they said they were all with their eyes closed, the faces were flushed red, tears were coming from their eyes. And the Friedrich Rebbe concludes and said, there's no doubt that the Rebbe was there in the room by the Chassidim picturing the Rebbe's face. It was as if he's mamish there in the room. Not as if, he was there in the room. And actually there's a source of that in Gemara. But in Gemara, you understand it in some sort of, as if. It's not actual. But when you explain it in Chassidus, it's actual. So therefore, it means that something which happened before could be happening now. It's not limited in time, not limited in space, but Gashmius is limited. Today is today, and tomorrow is tomorrow, and yesterday is gone. It's not here anymore. The whole idea of tshuva means going beyond Zman. Person did an Avera, who knows how many years ago. Today does Tshuva, and what happened 10 years ago, as if it never happened. How could I change something that already happened 10 years ago? Because it's above Zman. Ruchnis is above Zman. So Gashmis is limited in Zman Amokim. She be'ika b'dvarim Gashmin. And as you go to a more spiritual world, there are no limitations of time and space. And therefore, the question is, Apa became in order for the neshama to receive this greater gili of Tchis HaMesim, I mean, the Asalava, who davka, it davka needs to be in the Gashmis the Guguk, which is so much more limiting. So this means Shamachaluk and Bein Agila the Gan Eden Bagila the Asalava, that one of the differences between what will be revealed in when Mashiach comes, in Tchis HaMesim, and what is being revealed in Gan Eden, who have shotim et dvarim gashmim. In order to receive Gan Eden, the neshama has to divest itself, has to actually distance itself from the Gashmistic world. And the more it's able to distance itself from the Gashmistic world, the more it's able to enter and experience the Ruchnistic world. Shekedem aliyas and neshama le Gan Eden. In fact, it says in Kabbalah that before the neshama goes into Gan Eden, the neshama has to immerse itself in a mikveh. The mikveh, everything is metaphoric up there. And the mikveh is called Nahar Dinur. It's a river called Dinur. And it immerses itself in the mikveh. And what's the point in going to this mikveh? To forget what this world even looked like. I'm going to explain this a little bit. What it's basically saying here is generally speaking two ways that are possible for a person to rise from level to level. One is when you rise from one level to the next, and the level that you were at before helps you get to the next level. Is that in order to get to the next level, you have to totally and completely let go of the previous level. To give an example, this is the example that's brought down in my Maimonides, that we know there are two Gemaras. There's Gemara Bavli and Gemara Yerushalmi. Gemara Bavli is the Gemara that we study regularly. Gemara Yerushalmi was the Gemara that they studied in Eretz Yisrael. And that was written 100 years before the Gemara in Bavel. And it was considered that those sages who studied the Gemara Yerushalmi went on a much higher level, to the extent that the Gemara says one of the stages of Bavel, his name was Reb Zera, and he decided to make Aliyah, as you call it today. He's going away from Bavel and he's going to Eretz Yisrael. In order to go there, what did he do? He fasted 40 days. According to another opinion, he fasted 100 days, that he should forget everything he learned in Bavel, so he should be able to adjust and be able to experience and learn Torah the way they learn in Eretz Yisrael. So there's two questions there. One question is a halacha question. One of the negative commandments, one of the mitzvahs loisesa is do not forget the Torah that you study. I know everybody's thinking, oh no. But there's a difference between forgetting because my memory isn't working well, or actually I'm neglecting, I almost like do something that I don't care to remember. I don't review, I don't try to remember, I don't make an effort to remember. Imagine someone's fasting and davening and praying to Hashem, I should forget what I learned. That's against halacha, you're not allowed to. That's one question. The other question is logically, when it comes to intellect, we don't say the lower level is a interference to the higher level. Just on the contrary, you go to the first grade, that's a stepping stone to the second grade. And the second grade is a stepping stone to the third grade. And when you go to elementary school, that helps you a stepping stone to high school. And high school helps you go into seminary. And basically everything you learn, that is what prepares you to be able to go to the higher level of learning. So how does it make sense that in order to be learning on the level of Yerushalmi, you wanted to forget whatever you learned in Bavli? Erase everything. What?
I guess because they are not the same.
Right, but how could you forget what you learned and how then you have to start all over again? So the answer is actually the words you just said. It's not that you're forgetting what you learned. It's the derech, meaning the way of learning. That's what he had to forget. The approach of learning. You're not allowed to forget what you learned. And forgetting what you learned is not going to help you. All of a sudden, you forget all the Hilchos Shabbos and all the Hilchos Yom Tov and everything you learned. That's not going to help you. It means that there's a certain way of learning Torah in Bavel. There's another way of learning Torah in Eretz Yisrael, which is on a much higher level. The difference between the two levels is so vast that the only way he can adjust to the higher level is like totally erase the previous level completely, and only then could he adjust to the higher level. Because as long as he doesn't erase it completely, it'll constantly confuse him. He'll keep going back to that way. And he has to totally disconnect. Yes. Babli and Shalmi. I can't reveal everything, you know that. First of all, one of the differences we see in actuality is that the Babli is like 3 times bigger than Yerushalmi. In other words, how does the Gemara work? There's a Mishnah, and then the Gemara explains the Mishnah. So in Gemara Babli, the Gemara brings the Mishnah, gives an explanation. Someone comes along and says, I don't think that's correct. Someone comes along and says, no, it is correct. The one says, I'll prove it to you that it's correct. And he says, I'll disprove your proof. I'll prove your proof, disprove. Goes back and forth and dialogue, back and forth, pages. And after 5, 10 pages, finally the Mishnah is understood, go to the next Mishnah. So Babli is like this because there's so much dialogue and discussion and questions and answers and so on. Yerushalmi is very different. You have a Mishnah, the Gemara gives an explanation and goes on. There's no dialogue back and forth. One of the ways of explaining it, we'll need an explanation for the explanation, but let me just leave with this before we finish the class, is that imagine you're in a room and the room is pitch black and you're looking for the door to go to the backyard and you can't see a thing. So you feel your way around. Oh, you see a door. You open it up and it's full of linen. Oh, the wrong door. Okay, you close it. You cut working around another door. You put your hand in. Oh, there are dishes over here. This is not the door. Try another door. You crash into something else. You keep crashing and crashing, and trying this, trying that. Eventually, you open a door and there's fresh air. Oh, this is it. I got to the backyard. What if the same scenario, but the light is on? You go straight to the back door. In Yerushalmi, it was as if to say the light was on. We're talking about intellectual light. And therefore, the Gemara says there's a pasuk in Eicha, "B'machshakim heshivani." You put me into a place of darkness. So the Gemara Babli actually says, what is this referring to? Gemara Babli. It's darkness compared to Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, there's a light shining. And in Babel, there's darkness. So in Eretz Yisrael, they were able to see the interpretation of the Mishnah right away without going through the whole dialogue back and forth. In Babel, they didn't see it right away. So there was an attempt to explain it one way, an attempt to explain it another way. So eventually they got to the bottom of it. So obviously it was a higher level of seeing things and perceiving things, understanding things. And in order to be able to see and learn things on that level, he had to totally disconnect from the previous level. And so that means there's certain things, if the distance between one and the other is a measurable distance, you don't have to do that. Think of an example when you're walking up a staircase. I don't know if you ever analyzed it, but the way a person walks the staircase is you have 1 foot on the stairs, you put the next foot on the next one, and while the next foot is on the second step, you put your foot on the third step. And while you put it on the third step, you put the next foot on the fourth step. That's how you walk. What if you want to jump? You want to go from the first step to the 10th step. You can't keep your foot on the step because then you'll never reach it. It's too far away. You have to jump. Jumping means you'll leave go of the step where you were before, you leave go the step where you were before, and only then, if you leave go, could you jump into the new step. Means that if I'm advancing in gradually from one place to the next, then I hold on to the previous level, and that is the stepping stone to the next. But if I'm moving somewhere which is much, much greater than where I was before, I have to let go completely, and only if I let go can I go to that higher level. So this is a principle that applies with walking, jumping, it applies with learning, it applies in Avodah, it applies to the Neshama, and so on and so forth, to be continued tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem. In the meantime, try not to forget what we learned today, otherwise we'll have a hard time tomorrow. What?
You said that we're not supposed to forget something we learned. And then you said if you want to go in a higher step, you forget.
No, we don't forget what we learned. We forget the signon of learning. It's a signon that we're forgetting, not the actual learning.
And so when you said like now, what you're saying now, that if you want to go to like a higher level, then you need to let go of what you learned, like the style of learning.
Right. Not the information, the style of learning.
And what's the other one that you say?
The other one is when you're just going from one level to another level, but not something which is way a whole different world of learning. In other words, in Babali itself, people are learning and learning. We don't find that people fasted to forget what they learned Sunday so they can learn on Monday.
Yeah.
Because it's all one signon of learning, the same. But when you're going into a whole new different signon of learning, you have to forget.
And if you want to like move from like adult to what's
That's when you needed to forget, because that was a whole different level. It's called the Ein Areich. This is called an Aliyah, which is Be'erech. Erech means it's as a measurement. Be'ein Areich means totally a different category. Yes.
What are the, I'm not asking for like source because I don't believe you, but I'm just curious, where's the source of Gan Eden and the Rebbe, like the Rebbe's connection and the Rebbe's room, and where does that like connect?
Okay.
You know where I can get it?
In France.
In France?
No, it's going to be sold in Israel. It's just done.
The translation is good. The titles, if they re-edit it, they should review the title.
What does it say?
Hasidic approach to joy, but it's